Hello, it's your favorite unicorn-loving math teacher, and today we're writing equations and inequalities. Now, the important thing to remember is equations have an equal sign, and inequalities that has our less than, our greater than, and those are both graphed with an open circle, and then our greater than are equal to, and our less than are equal to, and those are both graphed with a closed circle. So those are a couple little hints right there. Now we're going to start with our first problem. As I go through, I am going to cube the problem, but then I'm going to ask you some questions to help us together. We're going to do this one completely together, go through the process. So Bob spent $32.44 on 4 Chipotle bowls. If each meal was $M, write and solve an equation to find the price of one meal. Now, when I see a number that's written, I'm going to go ahead and cross it out and write 1 because it is easy to accidentally miss numbers that are written, and I don't want to miss any numbers. So I need to know the price of one meal. But how many did he buy? He bought 4. Now, if each meal, that's another word right there. That means 1. That's one of our P words. So remember, P means number 1. Because they're per, each, and every. Now, the easiest place to start is I'm going to ask you, what is the total? Normally the total is the easiest to pull out from our word problem first. So which number do you think represents the total in this problem? Good job. You should have identified $32.44 as the total. Because when I think about it, when I get food, the cashier normally says your total is, and that was his amount. Bob's total was $32.44. Now, you need to notice that it says equation. I want you to always pay attention to that word because equation automatically tells you it's going to have an equal sign. So our total is always to the right of our symbol when we make it. We're going to do that to keep things easy on ourselves. So we're going to put an equal sign, and to the right of it is our total. Now, the last part I need to figure out is what relationship I should see in this problem between my variable and my number. So the easiest way to think about it is to first just look at the scenario and think about what operation would I do. So if Bob spent $32.44 on 4 Chipotle bowls, how would I figure out the price of one? What operation would I do to figure out how much just one costs? All right, so you should have came up with division because each one of those bowls costs a certain amount, and when I combine that all together, repeatedly add, I get that $32.44. So to find out how much one meal is, I need to divide it into those groups. So if the operation you're going to do to solve is division, then the one that you should see in the problem is multiplication. So if you know that you need to do division, you're going to see multiplication. So, and I need to multiply my 4 times my m. Now we're going to write it like we see it in 6th grade, where my variable is just written right next to my number. And now we're just going to put it off to the side so that when we solve this in just a second, we can still see what equation that we wrote real nice and clear. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this, and then you're going to solve it, and you can check your work afterwards. All right, so now go ahead and check your work. So you should have drawn your train tracks, and then you should have remembered we already have the steps off to the side, so we're going to do division. We need to get the variable by itself, or we can think of it as like the x. We need to get rid of that boo and move it and do it on both sides so that we can remove it from our variable. So once we do that, we can cross out our 4. We have m by itself. We just need to do everything we do to this side, we have to do to this side. So then we need to do $32.44 divided by 4. Okay, make sure that you use your multiples of 4, and once you figure that out, you should have got $8.11. Now, you might have made a mistake if you accidentally put the wrong number inside the house. You should always put your numerator in the house. So go ahead and let me know, how did you do compared to the actual solution? And if you made a mistake, that's okay. Identify your mistake and let's learn from it together. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put our m equals $8.11 right here. Now, this was an equation and it tells us, and that means equal sign. But the next two are inequalities. You're going to do this one on your own mostly, but we're going to do this one kind of together. So, now, Stuco wants to profit by at least $300 on activity night. If they pay $450 on food to sell at the event, how much do they need to raise to cover the food and still make $300? Write, solve, and graph an inequality. So the word inequality is important because that means we're going to have to choose what symbol that we need. So go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to figure out what symbol that you need to use, okay? So the first thing that you would need to realize is this word profit. Now profit, that's how much money I make. That's how much I walk away with. So that's actually telling me that this 300 is my total. So that profit's telling me 300 is the total. And then the word at least 300. So, and if you think about making money, would you want to make less than 300? No, we want to make at least 300. So this actually means greater than or equal to. Because I'm okay if I make 300, but I'm really good if I make more than that. So that word right before it, this not only helps tell me that this is my total, but it also is telling me that I want to make greater than or equal to 300. Now, if I already know that that's my total, think about what would you have to do, and let's go ahead and just say x as our variable. So we're going to use x as our variable. What are we going to have to do after we find out how much money we have? What are we going to have to do with x and 450 to find out what profit we make? Keep in mind, we're going to have to pay $400.50. All right, good. So we need to subtract that 450 because we have to take it away from how much we make. So now if we see subtraction, we're going to do addition. And now we can just go ahead and go through and solve it. And then go ahead and see what you think the graph should look like, but make sure you do it in pencil in case you need to erase. And remember, it's okay to learn from our mistakes. All right, so you can go ahead and check your work on the solving. So what you should have done is you already know that you see subtraction, so you're going to do addition. You need to add on both sides because we have to balance our equations. Whatever we do to one side, we have to do the other. Once we add, those two cancel out. We're left with x. And then when we add them together, we're going to get 750. So Stuco is going to need to make at least $750 if they want to have that extra 300 they get to keep. So now I want you to graph it, and I already put this. Make sure that you write this off to the side. Go ahead and put 749, 750, and 751 and go ahead and graph it now, and then you can check your work after. All right, so you should have put a closed circle because this is greater than or equal to, and if I look at my little cheat sheet, that tells me that it's a closed circle. And then you know that you need to make more than. So I need to go to the right because if 751, is that greater than or equal to 750? Yes. But what about 749? Is 749 greater than or equal to 750? No, that does not work. So I know that my line needs to go to the right. All right, now you're going to primarily do the middle problem by yourself. The only tip I'm going to help give you, since this is an inequality, is I'm going to read it, and then I'll give you a couple words to think about, and we'll see where you end up, okay? So Franklin has a maximum of $48 to spend on gifts for his teachers. He spent $20 on Miss Stinson and has D dollars left for his other teachers. Write, solve, and graph an inequality. All right, so if he has a maximum of $48 to spend, and then he spent $20. So your first step is I want you to identify what is your total. Good job, you should have identified that your total is $48. All right, now think about the word maximum. Think about it as max. If that's what he has, what symbol do you think we're going to use for maximum? All right, if you had a little trouble with that, the symbol that we need to use is we can spend all of that. My husband and I have a maximum we can spend on our house. We can spend that whole amount. I just can't spend more than it. We literally don't have more than that. So our max is actually going to be our greater than or equal to sign. So we're going to put our greater than. Oh, I said greater. We're going to cut this tiny little piece out, but it won't be super jittery. Alright, so think about it. Alright, if at 48 is the maximum amount I can spend, that's like my husband and I who are shopping for a house right now. We have a max amount on our budget. Now we could spend that in whole entire budget, but we can't go over it. So that means that we need to use the less than or equal to sign. So that is as high amount as you can spend. Now you can spend all of that, but you cannot spend more than that. Now, he already spent $20 on Miss Stinson and has that much money left. So let's go ahead and start thinking about the relationship between these two. Well, to figure out what we should see in the inequality, let's figure out what would we do. What would you do to figure out how much he has left to spend? All right, you should have realized that what he would do is subtraction. So if he would do subtraction, then you should see addition. So 20 plus D is less than or equal to 48. Now, you can also write it like D plus 20. So know that it can be written either way like that, but those two numbers should be added together on this left side. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pause it and let you solve it and graph it, and then I'll show you the solution. All right, so here's the solution. You should have seen addition, so you do subtraction. You need to make sure you subtract on both sides because whatever I do to one side, I have to do the other. I'm getting my variable by itself, and then when I subtract 20 from 48, I get 28. Now, if you had trouble with graphing this inequality, go ahead and set up your number line, write this up off to the side, and then go ahead and try to graph it again, but make sure you do it in pencil. All right, so this is your inequality graph. You should have used a closed circle because it is less than or equal to, and we know that that's our closed circle. And then you should have drawn it to the left. The reason that I know this is if I use that number as equaling D as a solution, is 27 less than 28, less than or equal to 28? Yes, so I know that that would work. Now is 29 less than or equal to 28? No, so I know that that won't work. That's how I know what direction to draw my line. All right, this is your writing equations and inequality video. Love you, mean it, bye.